Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So we finished up the Three Sisters trilogy already, and now we are moving on to I'm the Vampire, That's Why by Michelle Bardsley. I don't know if you can tell very well, so of course I'll try to make sure I get a picture of the cover on the thumbnail, but it's a stereotypical soccer mom, apron on, she's got little cupcakes in the background. When you look on top of the cupcakes, they've got bats on them, and she's got vampire fangs. So kind of a cute cover, super fun. So I think that's a pretty adequate tone for what you're going to find in the story. So this is the story of Jessica Matthews and Patrick O'Halloran. So trigger warnings for this story include assault, depictions of gore, and suicide. I'm sure there might have been like some other ones in there that I probably missed, but those were the biggest ones that I think would be the most disturbing. So we started off with Jessica taking the trash out to the garbage because her son forgot again. And she's kind of caught up in her own little world thinking about what's happened in the last year. You find out her husband had passed away, but that wasn't a huge heartbreak for her. They were already in the middle of a divorce because he got his mistress pregnant. And so, she's thinking about all the horrible stuff that's gone on in the last year. And then suddenly out of nowhere, she is attacked by this huge, hairy, monster man-looking thing. And understandably, she passes out. And here's a trigger warning, because this is her depiction of what happened. In her own words, her assailant ripped open my neck, snuffling and snarling as it sucked at the bleeding wound. So when I say there are depictions of gore, it's no joke. There are some genuinely disturbing depictions of gore. There is a lot of other really great attributes to the story, and thankfully the gore is kind of kept to where it only needs to be. It's not excessive, but it is there and it is graphic. So obviously, as anybody would in that situation, they pass out, and when she wakes up, she is sucking on the femoral artery of a very handsome, very naked, very aroused man named Patrick O'Halloran. We find out that apparently in the vampire world there is an illness known as the taint, and basically if a vampire gets it, it begins messing with their mind. At first they become extremely ravenous, it's uncontrollable hunger, they lose control of their mind and their body, and later on in the story you see a depiction of it, and it very much, the way they describe it is very similar to dementia, except with vampires and excessive violence. So, and it turns out that the being that had attacked Jessica was in fact a vampire that had caught the taint, and he was undergoing all sorts of medical experiments trying to find a cure for it. And part of his most recent experiment was that he had to fast for over a week, and apparently he'd been blind with hunger, broke out of the facility, and kind of went on a rampage because he was hungry. 11 people in the town of Broken Heart, I forgot to write it down, sorry. 11 people in the town of Broken Heart were attacked by this vampire dude, and they were all successfully turned to vampires, including Jessica Matthews. We also learned that a group of other non-human species, along with some vampires in this group, have banded together to create what is called the Consortium. I think this person was a fan of Dynasty because there's a few Dynasty references, and I think that's where she got the name of the Consortium. Their goal is to make a peaceful, harmonious coexistence and safe place to live their life as a society. The Consortium has been buying up land and businesses in the town of Broken Heart, and yes, it is really named Broken Heart. There's reasons for it. Planning to take over the town essentially to create their safe haven of sorts. Each non-human species has its own hierarchy and social system, so when they come into the Consortium, they kind of have to acclimate to what the Consortium is and how they run things. And in the vampire community, which is stressed more because obviously this one's about vampires, there is something of a caste system. If you are a direct descendant of one of the original seven sacred sects, sorry, I can't pronounce things very well. then you are very high in the hierarchy. The only ones that are higher than you are those that are descendant or created by the original vampire bloodline, which is actually part Fae. We also learn there is a group in direct opposition to the consortium who are called Wraiths. They want to completely take over and essentially enslave humans and Turnbloods, which is what Jessica is because she was turned into a vampire. Not really sure what makes Turnblood different, but maybe it will be explained in future books. Who knows? We also learn that the sexy naked man that turned Jessica is Patrick O'Halloran. He is, in fact, one of 2 sons of the first vampire, and therefore part Fae. He believes that Jessica is his prophesied mate. Oh yeah, the guy, sick with the taint, who's responsible for the need to turn so many people in heartbreak. Yeah, that's Patrick's brother, Lorcan. So that makes for some very interesting dynamics throughout the story. Jessica is still trying to sort all this out when she learns that not only was her almost ex-husband's mistress was turned as well, but she was also turned by Patrick, making him her master. So, I mean, put yourself in her position. Your almost ex-husband's mistress has been turned by the same vampire that turned you, that you are supposedly destined to be with. Oh yeah, it's going for the drama quick. So now Jessica and the others are turned as vampires and caught up in a vampire and other non-human war, raising their still human children. So it's a lot. I mean, for a just a little over 300 page book, it is a lot. I will say the author uses the space very, very well, and she does very good with prioritizing things. So I'm really only going to focus my character development on Jessica and Patrick because being the 2 main leads, they are the 2 that it's most focused on. And the rest of it is pretty well dispersed amongst the other characters, and there's just too many to really reference in this review. So the whole book is from Jessica's perspective, and you would think that that would really make it difficult for character development, but the author used some really great creative ways to expand on Patrick's character development as well. So I very much enjoyed that. So Jessica obviously has to deal with being a vampire and a single mom, but now she also has to deal with a man insisting he's her mate and work through the emotional conflicts from her failed marriage, as well as the fact that her almost ex-husband's mistress has the same master. So she had a lot of emotional things she had to work through. All in all, I liked Jessica as a character a lot. She always prioritized her kids and how things would impact them. Even given what happened between her and her ex, she kept a pretty good sense of humor, usually pertaining to mom life. I mean, any of you out there who are moms, you know how it is. Most of your humor comes from being a mom. There were a few references to her daughter's Bratz dolls, namely things like talking about how creepy they are, as well as insinuating that they're evil, which, I mean, they are kind of creepy looking, I'm not gonna lie. She refers to her son's bedroom as the pit of despair. She basically refuses to go in there more than 1 or 2 feet. She made a comment earlier in the book that she was always scared that a radioactive tentacle would come out and grab her. So she's pretty inventive. Even though most would consider her justified to hate the other woman who stole her husband, she finds herself feeling guilty that she didn't do more to extend an olive branch after her husband died. You know, because she may not like it, but the other woman's child is in fact, her children's half-sibling. She even formally writes her dead husband a letter of forgiveness, realizing that she needed to do something to begin the healing process, because that was the only way that she and her children would be able to move forward. So there's a lot of personal growth on her part. And then you add in the fact that she's dealing with her new undead status. I mean, it is a lot, and I think she handled most of it pretty well. As for Patrick, as previously stated, is one of 2 sons of the first vampire born before his father was turned using dark magic. He and his brother, raised by their mother, not knowing their father. After his wife and kids died, his father then turned him to save his life. And I can't get too much into character development pertaining to that without giving out too much of the story. But suffice it to say, his father had had to turn him to save his life. And being 4,000 years old, yes, he's that old, he's had time to mourn and heal from the loss of his first family. So when he finds Jessica and realizes that she's his soulmate, essentially, he's extremely well adjusted and ready to begin a relationship with her. Also, he understands that, you know, he's 4,000 years old. He's had time to adjust to things. She's a newly turned vampire with still mortal children. And that, you know, he's patient with her. He is calm. He is reassuring when he needs to be. He is constantly going out of his way to make sure she has what she needs. He's constantly going out of his way to make sure that children have what they need. Going out of his way to make sure that they are all protected. I mean, as a character, he was very stand-up. He had a lot of really good humor. He had really great, insightful things that he brought to the story. Unfortunately, a lot of the character development did come through other means. So it was like her conversing with him directly, her conversing with other characters who knew him, her reading written texts that were about the old times before a lot of this had begun. But there were different ways in which the character development was created. It does make it harder to give you character development, because if I give you too much of it in the context that it gives too much of the story. But just know it is not a similar situation to the Zach Todd situation in Dancing on the Air. His character development is not ignored. It is there. It is just done in a different way. As I already said, there are too many characters to really reference. I do want to say, when we meet Patrick's father, he is hilarious. He hardly takes anything seriously. He sees humor in everything. And at one point, Jessica tells him, "You're like a big dumb dog." And he looked at her without missing a beat, just says, "Well, I'm potty trained and I won't hump your guest's legs at a party." So, I mean, he rolls with it. He's super fun. He's probably the most upbeat character I've ever read, ever. No, wait. There's one other character in a different series. So, but the story ends from Jessica's daughter's perspective. Her daughter, Jennifer. And basically, it's like a little 2-page dealie. It looks like it's meant to be a diary or a journal entry. But her daughter just did like a little blip. And it basically, you know, cleaned up all of the loose edges and basically stating what their new living situation was and how life progressed after everything had happened. Which was kind of fun because it did add like another little depth, a little texture to the story, so to speak. So overall, I thought the story was good. There was a lot of groundwork laying and a lot of setup for future books, but the overall character development was in no way sacrificed. The author really seems to have gotten rid of a lot of the excess that doesn't need to be there that you see with writers like Nora Roberts, and just kind of focused on what needed to get done. Boom, 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 boom. With a lot of comedy, a lot of fun, very upbeat. I'm about to lose time now. I give this story a 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. It's early enough in the month. If you can find it, I would recommend getting it if you wanted it for your Hunttober season. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night where we're going to be reviewing The Dark Highlander by Karen Marie Moning. So y'all have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you again.